Good day, Brown. Thank you guys for being willing to tune into this opportunity that we've been given. This event is called the Young Adult Think Tank. And the ideal of the think tank is to bring hard questions, heavy questions into a room full of prolific people being able to speak about these heavy topics and find solutions. True enough, we won't always get the answer right. Chances are we might not always agree, but the ideal is to start a conversation within the church where it should always be started so that it can be done outside in the community as well. And I believe that's going to be able to bring fruitful solutions into the play. So what I'm going to do is introduce these fellas that we have sitting here on this platform, and then we'll get into them heavy questions.
What's up, everyone? I'm Sir Gregory Thornton from Memphis, Tennessee. I'm currently serving at Downtown Church, and I'm just super excited and thankful to be here.
How you guys doing? Name is CJ Lee, born and raised in Greenville, Mississippi. I'm currently a member here at Brown Baptist, and my sole purpose in life is to make sure every morning I get up to be a positive influence to all, and also to leave a long legacy for my family to use for generations to come. Super humble and excited to be here with these group of gentlemen, to share some thoughts about these topics.
What's going on, everyone? My name is Cedric Hunt II, native Memphian. I'm so humbled to be here to share thoughts with these great men. My home church is Greenwood AME, and my purpose in life is just to bring people together through Christ.
I'm Leroy Davenport, originally from Greenville, Mississippi. Now reside in Starkville, where I pastor the 16th Section Baptist Church. I'm grateful to be here with these group of men, and my purpose in life is just to help people remain hopeful as they seek change, but also just journey alongside them as they fulfill their God-given purpose.
Damon Cundley, I serve here as discipleship pastor at Brown Missionary Baptist Church. Everyone knows me as Pastor Jerome, and grateful for this opportunity to be with these brothers. I just want to make disciples of all nations, fulfilling the great commission that Jesus has given us.
Willie Petty Jr., like I said, I was born in St. Louis, but spent most of my life in Columbus. I serve here on staff, the pastoral staff, and the Brown motto is the motto I do try to live by, change lives and make a difference. And I'm just happy to be here.
One thing I love about bio is you get to learn something new about the people that you're around every day. Like I said, I didn't know Petty was born in St. Louis. I thought he was from the Golden Triangle. Once again, my name is Floyd Trey Lee. I am serving as a young adult minister here at Brown Baptist from Greenville, Mississippi. And my sole purpose in life is just to be able to help people see God's grace, as well as speak about mental health issues and how in the church we can start having those hard conversations. So to kick this off, thankful to God that we made it this far to get into 2021. The truth is 2020 was a movie. It was its own film within itself, and all of us started in it. As if we had to say, nobody was a supporting actor, everybody started in, because in some way 2020 affected us all. It was a pandemic, social injustice, and one of the craziest elections that I've ever witnessed in my entire life, and I've only been on this earth for 29 years, but it was crazy. And the thing about it is that election showed me a lot. 2020 showed me a lot, but the election did as well. It showed me that when it comes to Christianity, I believe a lot of people say Jesus, but we don't talk about the same Jesus. I think everybody has their own view or ideal on what they view Jesus as or what they believe Jesus to be. Yeah. The truth is, I think we need to have that conversation and realize maybe we ain't always on the same one accord. We're just saying the same name. Yeah. And so I'm going to get into the very hard question. The very first one is, has Americanized Christianity been the pitfall for when it comes to millennials and generation after leaving the church?
I believe what has happened is that we have intertwined Christian morals with American morals. And that is confusing to the young believer when America says certain things are permitted, certain things as gay marriage, but then in a Christian church, we don't agree with it. And so it's like, okay, if the church is not aligning with what America says, that something is going wrong. We have actually believed that to be a good Christian is to be a good American. And that is what has caused confusion, I believe, in this generation?
I think too, just even thinking now, I think a big problem that has happened is that the American church, the American preachers and pastors of old has been great at teaching good doctrine, but has been terrible at like actually practicing that doctrine. Like even now we hear about all these great pastors, these great theologians from the great Awakening, Jonathan Edwards, George Whitefield. Oh, and I hear these were just great men. This nation was such a great place during this time because they was able to open up the Bible and preach what was good doctrine. But their lives were terrible. They owned slaves. They didn't live out a life that reflected the truth that they was preaching. And I think too, millennials and the next generation, they come into a point of like, we don't care about your good doctrine because we seeing how y'all treating people.
Right.
We seeing how y'all keep saying, if you're gay, if you this, if you that, if you that, but this person has a soul, like, and you're not actually caring about this person, and we care more about caring about this person than we do your good doctrine.
Yeah, it's crazy. You talk about people having a soul. I remember throughout the whole election cycle, and forgive me, I don't know if it's unchristian to be on social media, but I'm on there, and I got a different array of friends. And what's funny is that when people were outraged because of the murders of the African American men and women at the hands of the police, and they were marching, or as some people say, looting and all this kind of stuff. I saw people who serve in churches who were calling these folks soulless animals, right? Wow. People who were made in the image of God because they were speaking out against something that was against what the American kind of thing was. Call them soulless animals. And so here it is. I think they're Christians who I don't think they have an understanding of what it means to be made in the image of God. And for you to go to that level to call these individuals people without souls shows you how bereft our Christianity here in America has been from these folks teaching these great sermons and orthodoxy, but the orthopraxy, the praxis, how do you love your neighbor as yourself, which God told us, love God, love your neighbor as yourself. Right. That has been, they put a cease or desist order on that, right? Yeah. And so I believe that has really hurt what we are seeing now with millennials, Generation Z, and everything else, saying, I don't know if I want to step into that.
Yeah. And just to piggyback on what you're saying, Generation Z understands that being a social justice advocate is living out the gospel. You can't talk Jesus, live like Jesus, or be image of God and not be for the least of these. And so Generation Z understands that. They also are critical thinkers, and so they're always thinking, always trying to find reason, always asking that question why and looking for answers. And so they are just a generation of people who don't want to be a part of anything that does not have that answer. They want to understand it.
Right. So being there, because I agree, the generation, the young generation, they definitely ask a lot of questions. They're definitely critical thinkers. Like my 12-year-old daughter will not tell us something, we're doing anything, with Bible study, anything like that. If it's something that doesn't make sense to her, she knows she can go to the internet and see it, and she'll challenge me on what I just said. Whereas when I was growing up, when grandma, told me something, okay, yes ma'am, that's what I do. You say don't do this in church, I'm not gonna do it. You say this is what God said do, that's what I'm gonna do. So I guess my question to you gentlemen is, do you guys think that the younger generation having more resources, more things they can go look at, do you think that can create some type of issues, opportunity with us trying to move forward and spread the gospel to others without putting a lot of, because the internet, I guess what I'm trying to say, the internet can sometimes, it can be a good thing because there's a lot of information.
It's also
can be a bad thing.
Yeah, it can be a rabbit hole.
Yeah, so, us as Christian men, how can we, make sure that the younger generation have the right resources to look at instead of the other false stuff, the lies out there that's being spread?
That's good. You asked two questions. I want to make sure I hit both.
Yeah.
The first one is are the resources that we have, is that make Christianity more challenging to be interpreted by Generation Z? And it can, because they want to know they're right there at their fingertips. And one thing about Generation Z, they're big on diversity. Whereas past generations missed it at school, for the environments that welcome it. You're going to see people of multi-ethnic groups, but also different religions. And they want to know what's the difference between Christianity or their classmates or their teammate religion. And so it's right there at their fingertips. And the truth is, a lot of the Generation Z people that we've had in our care don't have a good understanding of Christianity that's been presented to them, and it's our own fault. They can't articulate their own faith. They know they was dipped in water, they was baptized, but that's all they know. And so we have not done a good job of development to help them articulate their own faith, but their teammate that's a Muslim or a Hindu or a Buddhist or even an atheist who can quote more scriptures than some of us can articulate it. And they want to know, okay, well, why is it that they know and I don't know? So it puts them in a question like, okay, why should I even believe in something that I can't even speak about or articulate? That puts them on the fence. And so that's one of the things.
Right. Yeah. And one other thing too, it just popped into my head. You said, remember, you made a statement about how we all say the same word, Jesus, but we look at it in different ways. I had a young person ask me one day, it was a while back, they asked me, why do black people go to one church and white people go to another church? Because there's a saying that the most segregated time in America is 11 a.m. on Sunday. So, and when they asked me that, I literally had no answer at the time. I'm like, you know what? That's a good question, because if we are worshiping the same, God, why do we have to do it in separate places? Like, why is it 100, 200 churches on one street? We're all doing the same thing. So, I mean, as of right now, truthfully, I still don't know the answer to that. So, I mean, why do y'all think that?
Well, look, let me help it.
That's the American way. Everything, But anyway, I'll go back.
I mean, but I'm like, so like that's a prime example of, as we talked before the camera started rolling, about us understanding our history.
Right.
And we know, Absalom Jones and two black men walked into a white church and was praying in the white only section of the church, and they was thrown out of the church, and they started their own church. You know what I'm saying? That's how the AME started, the African Methodists, like, because we did not want to separate ourselves from you, but you pushed us out. So now it's black church on white church. But I think to even kind of go back to answering your question, I think it's a beautiful thing that we got young people today asking the question, why?
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful. I think it's beautiful when I see this 9-year-old boy asking me, why does God do this? Why? It's because they're learning about who God is, and not just saying, okay. Yeah. But they're really understanding more, or seeking to understand the person of God. Now, it is a danger, because we do live in this web where there's, as the old president said, fake news. There's so much, fake stuff out on the internet that and the Bible tells us that there are wolves out to capture. You know what I'm saying? And so it's a new thing out. I don't know how new it is, but Hebrew Israelites. Yeah. A lot of black people are becoming Hebrew Israelites. Not necessarily because they found a love for God, but because they have been hurt by white people, and they are trying to find their identity and dignity.
Yeah. I like that you said that, because me and Conley went to Philadelphia, and I've seen Hebrew Israelites, but not like in Philadelphia. Like, they were like an army of black men.
They were coming for us.
And I'm talking about, you had big ones, you had small ones, but what made them so strong about their faith was because they felt that their identity matched what Hebrew Israelite preached. Yeah. So you got in Americanized Christianity, which is something I'm waiting on Petty to say about that, because that's going to be good. But Americanized Christianity, if you go, when I grew up, and I don't know how many of you all grew up like this, in my grandma's house, there was MLK, John F. Kennedy, and right there you had a white Jesus, blue eyes, blonde hair. There you go, right there. And
at the church.
And then the thing is, as I got older, I started questioning, because scripture in Isaiah wasn't matching the way this Jesus looked like. He was like a pretty boy, but the Jesus in Isaiah, he was more like, he was rough. What they said, people wasn't going to even identify with him. They wasn't going to look at him as a king. He wasn't going to be pleasant to the eye. And so my mind was, as a black man, I started wondering, like, so do he fit me?
Yeah.
Do he look like me? And so when I seen Brothers of Islam and Nation of Islam and Muslim and all them, I felt like they all gravitated to those identities of that religion because it looked like them. And so nowadays I'm looking at the youth and they're looking for a faith, because the thing is, children are not trying to, the youth, the younger generation, they're not trying to walk away from God. They're just trying to find a God that fit their identity. Yeah. So when you see Americanized Christianity, pity, I'm coming. When you see Americanized Christianity, they see that as, oh, that's that white Jesus. So what Jesus are you talking about? He can't be the same
That's
one.
the Jesus that hates everyone else too.
He the one that slaved my people for so long. So guess what? I will walk away from him and I will go find, I'd rather be without God, or I will find a God that will present the identity to look like me. Because what I'm saying is the youth nowadays have become to the point, they want something that looks like them, that they can find themselves fitting. Okay, this fits me. Think about it. We live in a social media where they want likes, they want follows, they want all these things because they want to fit into the picture. And some of us, millennials, let's be honest, I'm a millennial. We came up, we built that, we created that era. We are the cause of fitting in, trying to go through the popularity parades and different things of that nature. But like I said, there's this thing called Americanized Christianity where the younger generation, they're like, I'm not with it no more. Throw that away. What God are you talking about?
Yeah, I think to what you're saying, and this is all great stuff. I wish we had hours to talk about each one. But what I think one of the things that Americanized Christianity, what it stripped away from other folks, if you didn't look, if you weren't white, was dignity, purpose, and your worth, your value. So dignity, what am I worth? What am I worth? My identity. Who am I? We realize that we are made in the image of God, and not the image that is on, in between JFK, MLK, and the white Jesus. Yeah. So it's dignity, the identity, but then purpose. What is my purpose? Like all of these are these questions that everybody,
the root questions, millennial,
Generation X, Z, white, black, whatever. I think that's one of the major hiccups to why the American Christian system has messed up, is that people are trying to get these answers. And for far too long, folks have not been able to get that answer. What's my identity? What is my purpose? Do I have value? And I think out of, there's probably other stuff, but those three are really at the center of the searching, why somebody would search for the identity outside of their faith, or to try to find it in an organization, or to try to find it in people. You know what I mean? Like they're searching, they're trying to find, and pastors and leaders, they've been giving us, get saved, get baptized, be filled with the Spirit, and that's all great, and that's good. I think that's what unifies all of us. But after that, what else is there for me? What's left? What am I pursuing? Yeah. And I think we've definitely failed in past with that.
Well, and that the conversation has turned a little bit. So I guess, not to challenge that, but if you're trying to find a God that looks like you, you've already failed.
Yeah.
So I think that's first thing. Millennials shouldn't be trying to find a God that looks like me. They should understand who God is and their identity in Christ Jesus. Yeah. Once you find your identity in Christ Jesus, then it's a little bit easier to understand, like you said, that history of the Bible. The other thing is, like we were talking before, I mean, sometimes we just lying about it, all right? If you read the description, first of all, we go black and white, but it said Jesus was a Jew. So why don't we just preach the gospel, preach the Bible, and stop trying to make it something. Yeah. And we understand some of that history, you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I grew up in the same, grandma had them same three pigeons, you know what I mean? And I remember asking my dad as a kid, like, hey, it said, he said his hair didn't look like that, and I remember my dad saying, we have not, as a people, learned to study enough to be bold enough to say what it really is.
Yeah.
And I think to that question we were talking about earlier for millennials, so now, and I keep saying millennials should be running your church now, you know what I mean? Because they're up in age, you know what I mean? They are coming on, they're running Fortune 500 companies, but we want to make them sit on the back pew and not listen to what they have to say. Exactly. That makes no sense to me. But the other side of that same equation is, like I said, we have become lazy, and I that's the bad thing about my children. I have, it seems like every age group in the house. So I got a college student, and he's asking why. The first question he asked me when we got to college is, so why can't I go to the party? And I'm like, you know what? I got an answer for almost everything. I really don't know how I'm supposed to answer this, right? Yeah. You know, so, you know, there's the first challenge, but I also think Generation Z is going to keep us from being lazy. Millennials as well. Millennials are leaving the church because the church has forgotten that it's a place, a hospital for everyone. Not just baby boomers, not just Gen X, not Xennials, which I kind of fall in there in between. It's a hospital for everyone. And service, to your question, why do we have black and white churches? Let's be honest with it. Music, preaching style.
Yeah.
All right. So we got to be honest with that. All right. Yeah. And if you like it, I'm not here to judge what you like, but we know that there is culturally a different side. Yes. We got a little bit different rhythm. I think Pastor, what you guys said is aerobic worship is what he called it. Like he was tired from coming to church service here at Brown. And I get that. And there's nothing wrong with the other side, because I think that's the problem. But if we're segregated, not because of a style of worship, but because we don't want to be with a type of person, then are we actually Christians?
Yeah, but see, but that segregation point, I think it was something said many minutes ago, is it's the American way. So the church, unfortunately, has followed the way of culture in a bad way, because the church is not the only place that is segregated, right? It's the boardrooms for the most part. Yeah. It's every layer of our society. And so the church is supposed to be something that was bulldozing that open, because, you know, according to Ephesians, you know, that wall of hostility that separated everybody was supposedly destroyed in the person and work of Jesus Christ. But unfortunately, you know, the church has just kind of teetered behind what, you know, the thing is, the growing trend, and that has set us back way beyond what we even think, you know, at this time.
So I want to say this, and I don't know where this is going to lead to, but I truly feel like the church had an opportunity to gain millennials and generations after dealing with all the social unrest, because they were waiting for the church to stand up, but they were quiet. The church started speaking, at least the church that identifies as the American way. They started speaking during the election. Republican, Democrat, which one is what God is for? I don't know if I can say this, but Jesus was radical, so he wasn't Democrat nor Republican. Sorry. Hurt your feelings? It's okay. I still love you. But the truth is, the church had an opportunity right then and there, especially in the black community, to be able to gain some lost souls dealing with that social unrest. But the church was quiet. Now, there were some churches that were speaking, but they wasn't speaking loud enough. Do you think that was because the church didn't know how to deal with it, or was the church ready to stand up for social unrest?
I think we can kind of put too much responsibility on the church. We have to understand, and I say this all the time, the gospel is free, ministry isn't. So when you have this platform to be able to make a change, some people don't even have the resources to even go out there to do that. And we can't be ignorant to the arrogance of youth. You know, we and I'm a millennial. We put so much emphasis on the church is not doing this, the church is not doing that. Millennials can be very arrogant. We can feel that I need no help to do this. I need no God help. I just need energy. I can burn some sage, and I can get all my problems solved. And this arrogance leads to the disconnect. I am pro-church. I am not going to be, you know, and we can talk about the realness of, okay, the church can't do this, the church can't do that. But there's a responsibility on the millennial to understand that okay, I have access to information, but doesn't mean that this information is going to be the end all be all. We just have this mindset that we don't need any help, this individualism, this individualistic mentality. And that is what I feel has made the disconnect. There was a people that grew up like the children of Israel. They knew not Moses and his God and separated. And they had to walk 40 years because they were lost. And that's what's going on right now. Like the church can only do so much. Martin Luther King preached to America. These were preachers that created such a civil uproar that got us this. But the children is what disconnected from the church. Yeah, I feel.
I think along with that though, even when I hear Floyd ask that question, like how did the church miss the mark if they did miss the mark? And what I would add to that is by saying I think the church has not grown to a point to be able to preach to this present moment, if that makes sense. Like all growing up in my childhood church, it was almost, the preaching was always the same. Believe in Jesus. Every first Sunday of the year, I felt like I heard the same sermon. This is your year. Prosperity. This is your year. And I was like,
Still waiting.
did you say this last year? But last year, my year. But God moving in the same season. And I think too, what I believe and what I personally feel is that a lot that the church has not been equipped and use the words lazy. Like, man, we have been lazy and haven't studied ourselves approved to really be able to preach to this cultural moment. And what I found that a lot of people need is not so much for pastors to go out on the street corner every week and stand up, but we have still missed in some ways being able to just come to you and really speak to your core identity and your core need. And that's what Pastor Conley kind of spoke to earlier about all the brothers in Philly. Like, Hebrew Israelites tell young black men who have been stripped of their dignity, their hope, and their purpose, they say, you are somebody. You are God's chosen. You are this, you are that. And they really speak to them on that personal level. And I think the church, maybe we have missed that in some ways.
Yeah. We've done a good job of speaking. We speak all the time. But church is more than just preaching. That's one form of the church as a whole is more than preaching.
Yes, that's true.
We have not done a good job of listening. And since we're talking about generations here, millennials, especially Generation Z, love to be heard.
Right.
We have not done a good job of listening. And since we fail to listen, we fail to know where they hurt and how they hurt. And because we don't know where they hurt, we have failed to act. And so we have generations who are looking for healing and to become whole. And the church, if we can say, and I say it carefully, missing the mark, it's because we have not done a good job of really to know the people that we serve enough to know how to minister or present God to them to give them the needs or the healing or the breakthroughs or the liberation that they truly need. And so the church speaks, but we fail to act. And it's because we have not done a good job of listening.
I'm gonna say, I'm gonna jump on the petty train here. I'm gonna be careful. I don't think the church has missed the mark. I think all churches, if they preaching and teaching the gospel, I think that's the mark.
Yeah.
I feel like the scope of what that mark has us to go to, I think that's what we've missed. We've missed it. So whether you, as Petty said, we're not listening to see what they want to do. We put them in the back, even though they're leading boardrooms, right? So we have not invited them into, the inner workings of the church. Everybody talked about folks being lazy and not understanding the historical components. Even if you didn't want to listen to the younger folks in the church, or you don't talk about certain things because it's taboo to talk about in the church. Like the lazy comes in at when you're not even studying culture, like studying what is happening, whether it's through music or through, in some kind of stream, reading the newspaper, do something to understand that there is something happening that you have to be addressing and saying those same things over and over again. As Sir Gregory was talking about every first weekend of the new year, right? There's so much stuff that, again, as we're trying to aim for that mark, preaching the gospel, soul salvation, under that umbrella is talking to the folks, who, as a brother was saying earlier, the LGBT community. Like, you missed it. You don't have to agree, but you have something where you can, talk and embrace them. Speaking in terms of the people not standing up for those who are protesting and things like that, right? And there are many leaders, whether they have the resource or not, they've been pounding the streets. But just as a church as a whole, like we missed some opportunities where we could have either said, hey, if I don't want to go out there and do it, how can I support you doing, and bringing attention, and how can I help you scream louder on certain issues? So yeah, we have been lazy. We hadn't listened to our young adults and folks. We're not looking at what's happening in culture, and that has totally messed up our witness because we don't even know how to, we don't even put our points together as we're preaching those sermons to address those particular issues as they come up.
Yeah, the church has gotten lazy because we have failed to change our approach. Someone said earlier, the gospel has not changed,
right?
But our approach must change. Even when you look at the shift of leadership between Moses and Joshua, they was getting ready to go out and get land. Moses sent out spies. Joshua sent out spies. Moses sent out 12? Joshua sent out 2. So same thing, approach is different. And so as we deal with different generations, different mindsets, we have to change our approach.
Yeah, but now I'm gonna flip flags on you. If the church needs to be the foremost authority when we see civil unrest or social injustice, then millennials included need to also physically and financially support the church prior to.
I'm with you.
All right. Millennials, studies show millennials are the largest givers to non-profits, yet the smallest givers to their church. All right. So now you got to put your money where your mouth is. I think that's what the old people used to tell us. But on the other side, I do believe the church missed that opportunity because we know the repercussions for being bold. All right, which goes back to the other side. We know that if we get out there and we march and we align ourselves with what some people think are radical, there are going to be less dollars, there's going to be a blowback, and people are not going to like us, we're going to lose allegiances. And I think that's why we have stripped, even our younger men of their identity. That's why they are identifying with other groups. But in that same cause, once again, I'm going back to, and I'm not putting this on millennials, lazy Christians. Because Matthew 28 tells us what those black Hebrew Israelites are doing is what we're supposed to be doing. Sharing the gospel. Discipling others, going out we're not doing it. All right. We can look at it, even we can make fun of it, but those Jehovah's Witnesses are in your neighborhood. They're knocking on the door. They have their words ready for you. You know what I mean? So how do we bridge the gap? You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think you said the same thing I told Brother Floyd. In different career settings, different generation settings, I told him, I need you to go march when you feel like you need to go march. I'm probably going to just buy the plane ticket. I'm in the plane ticket buying. That don't mean I don't agree with you. That's how I support you.
Because you in the game, though. You're in the game. You're allowing them. And again, we have to do it. It is so critical because, and as you're saying, there's a big disconnect. If I don't feel like I'm embraced somewhere, like I don't have to go. If I go into a restaurant and I'm sitting there for 15 minutes, nobody's brought me some water. You know what I'm saying? Like I can get up and take my, so they're not supporting. It's probably because we're not, giving them something that that they feel like they are a part of, which is critical. And I'm gonna say this part too, because lazy keep coming up. I think is lazy. Pastors and leaders have been lazy. I think members have been lazy too because here it is. We have historically put so much stock into that one pastor to feed you and to teach you and to tell you what the Bible says. And we hadn't studied our own self, and that's why we can't answer a lot of these questions that the Hebrew Israelites are answering, and these other different groups. And so again, there's laziness all across the board.
And some I keep hearing that's coming up, and like everybody points, it's this big disconnect. And I think the disconnect, like we kind of hit on it, but it's this cultural disconnect, right? It's, you even said, like, as long as the preacher is preaching the gospel every week, and I don't agree with that, because it's like you cannot just preach the gospel in a way that's not, like, if this person can't hear it, right? So for me, I grew up in the church every Sunday, Baptist. It was an ice storm in 2004. The whole city of Memphis shut down. Me and my mom in the car driving the ice to church. You know what I'm saying? Like, we ain't been to church for nothing. And I heard the gospel. And so just to y'all, just kind of my personal story that really brought my heart to God was the fact that my dad died when I was 7, and I grew up with this longing for this father. And I grew up searching for this man. I grew up searching for affirmation, and I was running to sports. I was running to relationship. I was searching, and one day, just hearing this message preached, hearing a brother come in my life and really help me to see that God is your father. Right. Like he connected all the dots to me personally, right? It just went, believe in Jesus Christ died on the cross for your sin, preaching the gospel, right? But it's this making that connect. And I think it's this disconnect, because on one side you got people like, man, we doing what we supposed to be doing. Like, we trying our hardest, like we trying to reach them. And the other person is just like, no, y'all not listening to what I'm saying. It's almost like marriage. That's how I feel about my wife sometimes. Like, I'm trying, baby. But she like, no, you ain't. You don't hear me. Babe, I'm just playing, babe. I'm just playing.
But with that being said, so because we got to close it out. Not because
we're just getting started.
I know, right, man? But the thing is, that's why we probably gonna have to do a part 2 on this, because we stayed on one question, but that one question filtered out so many other thoughts and ideas, and I'm thankful because I got to hear testimonies and I got to hear different things, and it convicted me, it comforted me, because same way like you said, when I found Christ, it wasn't because of what grandma taught me. Thankful for grandma, because that's my both of my grandmothers were my number one women in my life, and they both said, Floyd, you're gonna be a preacher. And I was like, nah, grandma, that ain't happening. I'm finna go rap. And my other grandma said, you can rap and preach. And actually I'm doing that right now. But the thing about it was, it wasn't grandma's faith that kept me. When I got to college, I had a nervous breakdown, and literally it was me finding peace in Christ, like literally who Christ was. After looking for Nation of Islam and talking to Muslims and going to Muslim church, that never helped me. Like, it's crazy, but I'll tell y'all this real quick so I can close it out. I searched for God in a lot of things. I thought about joining gangs. I tried it. That wasn't working for me. I tried it in trying to get as many women as I could in high school. That didn't work for me. I tried it just trying to join a fraternity, and yes, I'm thankful to be Omega, but it still wasn't hitting where it needed to hit. And I kept saying, God, it got to be something. It got to be something. What am I missing? And it was God giving me that peace, and he broke me, but he built me back up, and he still break me. Like, it'd be sometimes I'd be like, God, not this season. He'd be like, yeah, this season I got to break you, because I'm finna build you back up for the next season. And I say all that to say, because everybody on this panel has a story to tell, and I'm pretty sure everybody's testimony can sound something like that. And that's why we're having this conversation, because as you notice, there was a couple of, no, I don't agree with that, but I do feel you on that. And you've seen it handled in the mature manner, not because we're saying, oh, we Christians, so that's how we handle it. No, we handle it because that's love, and that's who God is, and that's who Jesus is, and that gives us the opportunity to have this conversation. So I promise you guys, we're going to keep this going. Hopefully, Petty and Conley, they're okay with that we keep this type of conversation going in the near future. And thank you, Brown, for being able to watch this. Watch it again. And if you got questions, reach out to us, and we keep them questions going for the next one. I'm thankful for this opportunity and very humble. You guys have a blessed day.